minute. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we are fortunate enough to have Officer Craig Robertson, who also serves as our Monroe School District School Resource Officer. That looks a little bit different this year just due to COVID and school buildings really not being open right now. And so we are thrilled to have him here supporting our work virtually and offering this opportunity for our families. We are finding, I'll say this, my name is Jeanette Seamers. I'm not sure if the families who are in here are Monroe High School families, because we've also invited our middle schools as well. I'm one of the assistant principals at Monroe High School, and we are certainly noticing an increase in instances of social media misuse. And so I'm excited for Officer Robertson to talk about cyberbullying and kind of be able to differentiate. And then I'll chime in tonight a little bit more than last week as to what it looks like from a school perspective. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get us into our presentation. Move a couple things. All right, Officer Robertson.
Thank you.
Hey, hold on a minute. Sorry.
There somewhere.
There you go.
There you go. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Ms. Seamers, for introduction there. I think last week's first part of this was recorded. Was it put onto the website? I don't know if it was or not.
I haven't posted it yet. I was going to post both parts at the same time.
Okay, so it'll be on there. So if you want to do the first part after watching this one, you definitely can. But each of them has a little bit different info with some slideshow variations in there. So anyways, go ahead and check it out. Any questions afterwards, you can reach out to either Ms. Seamers, Principal Willie, or myself at any time for any questions that you might have. So once again, grateful to be invited to do this. This is something that's passionate for me. Once again, I don't know if you're returning from last week or not, so I'll introduce myself. Officer Craig Robertson. I've been with Monroe Police for 5 years. Started in law enforcement in 1999. Raised 3 boys through the system, through the school system here, and my last one just graduated last year, 2020. So I have felt the struggles of parents, being a parent myself, of going through the social media, the internet struggles, the bullying, the victimization that happens out there. I believe it's real. I've seen it, that it's real. I've been on both sides as a dad, as a parent, and as an officer responding to calls of kids that have been bullied. And so because of that, it is a passionate thing for me. I am new to the schools. Right before COVID became a thing, I was placed into the schools, which was welcome from my family. It was a great position to be in. I was grateful to be there, and I'm looking forward to coming back to the schools once it opens back up. But with that being said, I know kids have a lot of time on their hands right now, and we're doing everything online. So I don't know what families have what safeguards in place. And so this is more of a tutorial to talk about things or avenues you can take of getting your kids basically up to speed on having the safeguards in place to protect them from anybody that might be, for lack of a better term, prowling on them or bullying them. So anyways, with that, we'll get right into it. I'm going to show a bunch of different apps. I know, and I don't know what everybody's level is. There's some parents that I've talked to that are far surpassed any kid or teenager that knows the internet. That's not me. I do know a bit about it, but I don't know all of it. And, you know, even playing kids games or trying to pick up the Xbox or whatever, we talked about it last week, trying to do anything other than like an Atari or an old school game, I fall behind. And so with that being said, it's difficult for me to figure out what each of these little apps are, the TikToks and the Snapchats and the YouTube, and YouTube's been around forever, and the Asks and the Kicks and the Instagrams and all these apps. It's just so hard to keep up because as soon as you figure it out or you think you figure it out, now there's a new app that you got to figure it out. And then, you know, there's so many other variations of that app or access to your child. So it's important for us as parents to just keep up to speed with kind of what your kids are looking at or involved with. Go to the next one. So where do we start?
I'd say they've also changed a little bit. The YouTube today is different than the YouTube that I remember when it first started. Students have access to subscribe to channels, or maybe you don't let your student do TikTok. Guess what? They can watch TikToks on YouTube all day long. So just something to kind of be aware of. I myself am the parent of a 9th grader and a 6th grader. We have some pretty strict social media standards in our house. Neither of my kids have social media accounts, but finding out that they're watching a lot on YouTube. So different than what we even had a few years ago.
Very true. A lot changes as the years go on. Yeah, you know, we don't have the old computers and the flip phones and all that or whatever anymore. We have full access to the world, which is exciting. It's something that we should embrace. This is just the time and age that we live in, which is a great time to live. However, it comes with accessible. It comes with threats or concerns that could come our kids' way. And so we just have to be more proactive in making sure that they are taken care of or safeguarded. So I throw the screen up there because it's just, I think it's even in a foreign language. I'm not quite sure all those apps, but as I looked at it, as I made the slideshow, but that's kind of what a phone looks like sometimes when a parent looks at a kid's phone and they're just like, holy goodness, why do you have so many applications on your phone or apps on your phone? Like, what does all this do? What does all this mean? And to your point, Seamers, is kids, even with like Facebook, for example, you can go into a Facebook a search bar, you can type Google and you can have Google there. So you can take Google off a kid's phone so they don't have access to the internet. However, they can go through a social media website or a social media app to get to any sort of search bar. So for the internet.
And also vice versa. We talked about last week how, and I'll just share this example from my own home. We had some pretty strict policies. 16 is when we would first entertain a social media account. And I had shared with my son, just so you know, I work with this every day as an assistant principal, and was doing kind of a cursory search of the phone and found that he had created an Instagram account but didn't download the app. So he was actually just opening up a search engine, Safari, opening it up, typing Instagram.com. He had his account through there. I was able to check his account. Everything was fine. He had like posted race cars and things like that, like total 13-year-old boy stuff, but he wasn't allowed to have the Instagram account. So they could actually do the opposite too of having the social media accounts, but not having the app. So that's something, if you've had that expectation in your home, that's another way that we find that students will access that.
And kids have a lot of peer pressure to join these social media apps, you know, and each family is different and has their different rules and their regulations within their family. But kids are pressured into, why aren't you on the app? Why aren't you friends with me on there? And it's a status thing. And so they feel like they have to have it, even if it is lying or hiding from parents, their ability to get on there. So, but once you figure out where to start with all these apps, and let's just say you've looked through them, your kids explained all 50 of them to you, and now you go to the next thing, go to the next slide there, and now your kids placed all of them into little folders. And now you're just like, well, wait a minute. Now there's 100 of them in there. So now you've got to open up each folder to open up each app to get, and I know that this is specific to an iOS or an Apple product, but other phones are very similar to applications or apps and how you can place them around. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. I don't go through my youngest, like I said, just graduated, so he's 18. I don't go through his phone anymore. We're past that age, and we have that trust in him that he's going to make right decisions. However, if I were to go into his phone, this is probably what I would see: a semi-organized app cluster going on in there. And so this is kind of hard when you want to actually look, peruse, just make sure that your kid is doing the right things on the phone. This is difficult to have to look at and have to go through each of them. And then to the next slide. Now all of a sudden you have a child, which is great, decides they want to color code everything and put it all into color code. So there's no rhyme or reason, but to them it makes sense. And they've got it all. I used to do this with my closet back in the days when I would do my blue shirts and my black shirts and all that. And then it just became so much. And so I just couldn't do it anymore. And so apps are, if they've got the time to do this, that's great. If you have a child that does this, I think it's wonderful. But it just makes it so that now we've got to go through each of them again. So applications or phones, they're not easy to do it. So to the next slide, you don't need to know it all the ins and outs. So basically as a parent, you don't have to be an expert. I am not an expert, even though I've been in law enforcement a while. Seamers has been in the school system for a while. That doesn't make us experts in it, and we don't need to be experts in it. However, we deal with it quite often, and so as parents, we just hope that you learn the basics of kind of what a phone or an application has to offer, just so that you can set those safeguards. We talked about last week of when you give your kids a phone. That question I field quite a few times from parents that ask me, when should I give a kid a phone? When should I give, my 12 or 13 or even 11, 10-year-old a phone? And my answer always is, when do you think that you should give them the phone? You know your kid better than anybody else. And what has that child done to earn the phone? Have they earned the respect, or have they earned the trust of being able to have access to the world and make right decisions on that phone? Do they have the ability to run to mom and dad when somebody that is unknown to them? I mean, we've taught stranger danger all of our lives, and then all of a sudden we have access to the world where strangers have access to our children in many various ways. I'm going to show you a couple. But will your child now come to you as soon as that stranger reaches out to them? Because I know back in the day when the ice cream man would come down the street and all that, we were always very cognizant of stranger danger and all that. So if it was an unknown person that would come to us, the first thing we would do is run to our parents and tell them. Do our kids do that when they are contacted by somebody unknown to them on their apps and their phone? That would be my question to my child before I would give them a smartphone. And so that's my answer. So if any of you are listening, I know there's only a couple of you on, so hopefully it gets out there and individuals can listen to this. But that's always going to be my answer is your child better than anybody. So make sure that you make sure that they're ready for that. So let's jump into a couple of apps that I have looked at. So this is going to be I'm going to encourage each and every parent out there to, if you're going through your kid's iPad, iPhone, other phone, what other phone? Is there anything other than Apple in this world? What else is out there? Samsung. Okay. Yep. All the other phones that are out there. If you're going through your child's phone and you see like this app, for example, live.me, what is it? Well, feel free to jump on, download the app yourself and get on it. Spend some time on it, create a user account, go onto the app and figure out what it is. On this one, I did it myself. I have no desire to chat with anybody online or live video stream anybody online. This is the longest I've live streamed anybody in my entire life right now. And so because of that, I have no reason for this app. And I don't know that kids really have a reason for this specific app either. So this is just one of the several examples that I'm going to give you. Live.me, it's a video streaming application. They say that it's 18 plus, that you have to be 18 to have it. However, there's no verification on that. So anybody at any age can download it. Inappropriate content. When I went on there, I didn't see nudity. I saw very, let's just say material that should not be seen, adult material that's in there. And I would imagine if I kept going farther into the app or started chatting with individuals that are on the app, you would probably find that you can find yourself into a pretty deep hole of a mess. So with that being said, it is, and I actually put one of the parents' reviews at the bottom there, that parents beware, download this app. And I came across the multiple videos of questionable aged people taking off their clothes. Their owners of this app seriously need to do something about their security. And here's my question too, is if they're not really verifying a person's identity by like an ID or a government ID or anything like that, and there is nudity or happens to be nudity on the back end of an app or in the front end of the app or anywhere in the app, how do we know that these, even the individuals that are doing it, are over 18? And so with that being said, it's very questionable, and this is not something that people should be in. However, this is up to each parent to manage that and check that out. So this is just one of the ones that I wanted to bring up that was concerning to me. Next one, Kik. So it's a messenger app. There's another one that I downloaded and just checked out. It allows communication with strangers who share their texts and all that. I wrote some notes on it. Because it's an app, the text won't show up on your kid's phone. That's the most important thing. So this allows, so basically if you have Verizon or AT&T or any other phone internet service, you can monitor it through your carrier a lot of times with an application. The carrier, AT&T and Verizon, they're not going to hold your data of an actual application. So Kik is one of those examples where you can message, you can send photos, you can send texts, thousands of texts a day, and it's not going to show on your plan. Let's just say Verizon, for example, it's not going to show that you sent 1,000 texts for that day. So you're not able to really monitor your kids' activity on a certain application. In this one, it's the review that I found down there, parent of a 12 and a 14-year-old. Don't be fooled by the innocent sounding name. The app is a prime vehicle for sexual predators to locate targets. Within hours of installing this app on the phone, my child was receiving random explicit invitations for photo sharing. Now, remember, we have a lot of laws in the United States of America, which we're very grateful that we live here because of those laws. It comes with accountability. It comes with local law enforcement and federal law enforcement, which would get involved in any sort of situation that might happen on a phone that's illegal. However, not all countries have the same accountability that we have. And when you get into an application or online, the internet, you are welcoming everybody from all over the world that don't have the limitations that we have or the expectation of appropriacy. So just remember that as a parent, when you're allowing a kid to be in Kik, for example, a messenger app, that they could be contacted by anybody in the world. And so this parent down here definitely pointed that out, that somebody contacted them right away. So just one of those other ones to look out for. All right, next one. All right, Snapchat. Nobody's ever heard of that one, right? Ooh. So Snapchat. Snapchat. So everybody thinks that, I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Everybody thinks the data on Snapchat just goes away. Like you have it for a bit and then it disappears. Great thing about Snapchat is it's all there. Snapchat, they keep all of their data. They keep all of their info. They have it there. It's in databases. So we are able to get it from law enforcement if we ever needed it through a search warrant. Also, that's on the law enforcement side. Also, kids can retain it by doing a screenshot of it. I know that it allows the other person that sent it to be able to see it. But the data is there and the pictures are there. So kids feel a little more safe because they think that their photo or their video or their image or their verbiage is gone that they're sending to the other person. Even back to the bullying part, is they feel like they could be that bully and they can say what they want to say because it's going to go away. Well, there's ways, and I think Seamers, you have ways that you could probably discuss on how you can capture data from like an app like Snapchat.
Yeah, one of the things we use here at school that we work with students on who share, like typically when we have things circulating really big too, we use one option which is called the Snap Map. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, Officer Robertson. Snap Map shows us when there's certain activity happening. So it'll highlight over Monroe High School when something big's going on or wherever you're at, so that, and you can actually see the snaps, and it's just called Snap Map. So that's one way that we kind of monitor how big things get at school or with our students, because it'll also kind of highlight Monroe as a town if something's big going on Snapchat. The other one that we do when we work individually with students when they're reporting something is we'll try to find a student who has not opened it up. So one of the big things we hear from students is they'll know if I take a screenshot, it'll notify them, which is one of the pieces of Snapchat. I think there's some other apps that have the same. If you take a screenshot, it'll notify the person who posted it that a screenshot was taken. And so we actually teach students how to do a screen record before they open something. So if you're, and I have an iPhone, I don't know how to use it with a Samsung, but from your home screen, if you scroll up, there's a little tiny round button that looks like a recording button. And so you push that, and then you basically, we teach students how to maneuver through their phone. So they would go to Snapchat, they push that button, it starts recording their screen or whatever it is they're looking at on their phone. So they'll open up the Snapchat, we'll be able to get a recording of it without notifying whoever posted whatever the inappropriate material was or message or things like that. So we'll use that as a strategy for students too, who get concerned about things like retaliation, or I don't want to report this because then that person's going to come after me. So that's just couple ideas.
We also talked about that too. Thank you, Seamers. We also talked about that too is last week is keeping your data or keeping the information so that when you do report bullyish behavior or bullying behavior, and having that for the adult or the teacher, administrator, or the security or the officer that you report it to, it's important that we have some sort of evidence or something to show us about the bullish behavior so that we have that for our report. And so it's important just in those things. And if parents need a little bit more walkthrough on that, you can definitely reach out to us and we can help you out. We can physically show you if you need us to on the phone and all that. I know not everybody's up to it took me a long time to get to where I am, which I'm even subpar at this point. But I don't expect all parents to have full knowledge of how it works. Now, I'm super grateful that the Monroe High School allows our kids to have phones in the school. I truly feel like phones and access to the world is a gift that this generation gets to have going through. When I was raised way back, a million years ago, we didn't have all this kind of stuff. We had the books, which aren't bad either, but we had libraries and what were those library cards that you had to go through? What were those things called? Anyways, then you take the library card out and then you had to go find the book.
The Dewey Decimal System, like the cards?
Yeah, that.
You're aging us, Officer Robertson.
Oh, I'm up there. I'm just saying that's how we had to do it. Now kids can just like type in there, what is this? Show me this, or Google Earth, and then go right to it and see it, which is great. And that's why I'm saying we just need to embrace the fact that we have what we have today. And I think it's wonderful for our kids to be able to have access to the world. We've always, as parents, just wanted to give our kids the world. And this is kind of our way. We just want to make sure that it's done appropriately and that we set the safeguards out there for them. So I just want to talk about one thing about Snapchat is if you ever wonder about your kid's Snapchat that they probably spend 95% of their world on, a lot of kids do, ask them to see their My Eyes Only. And I know you kids are probably going, what? Right now, if you're listening or on here, but look at their My Eyes Only folder. It's in Snapchat, and ask them to look at that folder, and it comes with a separate passcode to get into it. So you got to do your passcode to get into your phone, but you also have to do a separate passcode to get into My Eyes Only. And that's where they're going to keep the hidden pictures, videos, or whatever data that they want to keep in there that's going to be away from people if they were to have access to their phone, and no one can get into it without having a passcode. So anyways, My Eyes Only is kind of a hidden within an app section in there. So be careful of that. Next slide. So TikTok. I think everybody's heard of TikTok. I am an advocate of TikTok. And the reason being is because it does take a lot of time away from individuals if you let it. It's one of those things where it could take your time and life and everything like that of your energy. You could sit there for, you would think you would sit there for 10 minutes, but you're actually an hour into looking through several videos because it can be intriguing as you're looking through them. And it's basically, you're just swiping through a bunch of videos. And I think the definition on TikTok is they said they were supposed to only be like 10 or 15 seconds, but I think they can go up to a minute video. And so the only thing that I found bad, and I haven't seen since I've been on TikTok and I've had the application. I see that you can do, strangers can send private messages. That's why I put that on there. So you can have, once again, your child can be contacted by anybody in the world. And so that's always scary. And so maybe just having that talk with your child of making sure that if they're contacted by any stranger or any person that they don't know that's in their friend group, to definitely come talk to you and let you know right away. Suggestive content, it does have it. I have not seen actual pornography, but suggestive content could be on there. My favorite part of TikTok is the algorithm that it has, and it's kind of a built-in thing that I think is kind of neat, is that whatever you watch more of, so you can swipe through videos, but what you stop and watch, it'll actually do an algorithm of that type of content. So whether it be, food-based videos, it'll show you more food-based videos and more of those will come up. So if you do political videos and you want to watch those, it'll show you more political. So it has a mind of its own, and that kind of gives you this algorithm of what you're interested in and what you're actually going to do. So as a parent, my recommendation is that you actually ask your kid to see his TikTok, look through it, be interested, but as you're swiping up, as the content's going, you're going to know what their algorithm is, and you're going to know what your child is and has been looking at, or the subjects that they've been looking at based on their algorithm. And so that's just kind of a way of a parent being able to search for content that they have. And you can also follow individuals that are on there, so you can go to their following page on TikTok. So once again, one of those applications that I don't see as harmful, but I do think as a parent, it's something that you should monitor and make sure that your child's not being contacted by individuals outside of their friend group.
Hey, Craig, this just in. Just, one of our viewers tonight just informed me, and this happens to be an MHS student. So this is great. I love it when I learn things from students.
Perfect.
It appears that Snapchat has updated its app to where it does now notify you if you do the screen record option that I just explained.
Who does it?
Yep. So thank you. I won't share your name, special student.
Thank you, special student.
Thank you, special student. It's always good to be also open to learning and understanding new things. I won't share that with our students anymore, because that used to be a really good strategy for us to use to kind of keep them protected. But now we know.
That is good to know. And thank you for sharing that out there. I appreciate you letting us know as adults and teachers and law enforcement. The more info we have on applications and internet and all that, it just helps us with our jobs and helping keep kids safe. And so with that, I will encourage always to still try to grab that data. If somebody is being abusive, they are being bullyish online or on Snapchat, at that point, I don't care if the other person or the bully sees you. They're the ones that need to change, not you. So go ahead and get that data, get that information for us so that we have it. So thank you again. All right, secret apps. I just grabbed a couple. This is just a portion of how many secret apps there are out there. There are a lot. A lot of them come in the form of calculators, because most calculators are pre-downloaded into phones already. So when you get like an iPhone, for example, it already has a calculator in there. So if you were to look at any of these, would any of them really stand out to you of being a secret app? Well, a couple of them have the locks on them. The one at the bottom has like a vault with a fingerprint on it. The red and white just has a normal, kind of looks like a calculator, but they're all off a little bit. So back to the beginning, when we showed you all the apps on there, that's the diligence that I guess that a parent might need to do if you have reason to believe that your kid might not be trustworthy with their phone or the content that they have, is just go through the apps. Now, what these apps are going to do, when you click on them, it's going to take you to a lock screen where you have to put in a code to access it. Now, there's no calculator app that I know that's a true calculator that would work as a calculator and then also a secret app. So I don't know if they do. I don't have any secret apps, so I don't know if that's how they work, but I do know that you have to click on it and it takes you to, maybe it does take you to an actual calculator that works as a calculator, but if you put an equation in, maybe it opens up. Maybe our secret student that's on here can help us out with that and let us know. Maybe next time we'll get you on this. But anyways, just know that there are apps built for this, and so that you can hide content being images, being videos, any sort of data that you might want to hide. This might be the place that you might want to check to see if your kid has any hidden stuff on there. Watch a video.
I was taught about right and wrong, but at the time I couldn't even come to accept that what I was doing was so bad. This is case number 867CI-009 in the matter of Samantha Gray. There were no bruises. There was no blood. And Miss Gray, how do you plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. There were no punches thrown. It was just a joke. It didn't mean anything. But it meant something to her.
Did you not send these harassing messages to Casey Malcolm declaring that she should end her life?
But it wasn't serious. It wasn't real. It was just a joke.
So you do admit that you sent these messages, and is it not true that you relentlessly harassed the victims on multiple occasions?
Objection. Overruled. I didn't think she'd take it seriously.
But she did, and you didn't stop until you pushed her over the edge.
Objection, Your Honor. Overruled. She was weird. It was just supposed to be a stupid joke. I don't see it was my fault that she might kill herself over it.
No further questions, Your Honor.
We find the defendant, Samantha Gray, guilty. I now know that what I did was wrong. That my words killed her. I killed her. And now I'm left with nothing but myself, this cell, and my invariable guilt. If I could go back and change this, I would, but I can't. It's too late for me, but it's not too late for you.
All right, that's good on that. All right, so even though there was a lot of bad acting in that video, it was pretty important. Terrible acting.
Student
But
created is what I like.
what is that?
The student created video.
Yes. But perfect message of accountability and consequences and punishment. This happens too many times and all too often across the US or across the world rather, of kids not seeing the bigger picture of what their words or how their words might impact somebody. we as adults, as we mature in life, choose our words a little bit better than what a child might do at, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And we don't realize how hurtful that can be. And so just in this short clip, it's important to point out that even as a teenager, you're still held accountable for the words that, or even the actions that you might write to somebody. So encouraging somebody to hurt, injure themselves, or even bullyish behavior has accountability. This hasn't always been there. This ability to bully people online. It's fairly new, as long as we've had phones. And I know a lot of teenagers out there, it's been your whole life, but it hasn't been our whole life. And so bullying, like we pointed out last time on the call last week, is that a bully back in the day used to be face to face, and still is sometimes. But in most times now, the bully is able to hide behind a phone or a text or an internet or an app or anything like that. So they don't have to actually look at their individuals when they do it. So they're more cowardice when they do it. And so, so just remember that being a bully comes with consequences. And then let me show you just a couple examples on a couple web pages that I was able to find. So here's an Instagram page that was created for, if you look at it, it's a middle school age child, and somebody created an Instagram page with her picture on it and then tagged it as "She's So Ugly, hate page for the ugliest girl in Rowe Middle School, Bella Corrigan," naming her. So if you don't think that this comes with consequences, that we in law enforcement, through a series of events, would be able to find who created this page. And so it doesn't just, you don't know fully the impact that that's going to have on this individual, on Bella, as she has to see this and has to have people following it. She already has 28 followers on the page, and I would imagine people commenting and all that. So you don't know the long-term consequences or even the short-term consequences. But when it comes to accountability and the crime part of it, we have our ways of being able to find who created the page. So it's not worth it. And that's a very perfect example of what a bully might do against an individual or a student at school. As a parent, what would you do if this was your child? How do you react when Bella comes home and says, "Mom or Dad, somebody created a page against me," and she shows you this page? What do we do as parents? What's our out? How do we help? How do we take care of it? Who do we go to? Well, this is the part where I wish there was interaction, where I could get some discussion brought up, because this does field, or this would be good to have a large discussion with individuals. In this case, as a parent myself of kids that have been on the receiving end of bully behavior, this never makes a parent feel good. In fact, this is our worst nightmare, is having a kid, any of our kids, hurt or made fun of or left out and not part of their friend group and all that. So if it gets to a point like this, as a parent, you have outlets. We would encourage you to go through the reporting process that we have in line. There's teachers that always are accessible via email or however you can contact them. We have administrators. We have security. And if deemed appropriate or criminal, we can also get law enforcement involved. And I'm the school resource officer, so I would love to field any parent's concern that they might have for this type of behavior. I would rather spend time with Bella and talk to Bella about how important she is and how much she matters to us, rather than her thinking that she's not. So, and then we can also get that page taken down. So any thoughts on that, Seamer?
No, I know you have a reporting slide later, and we talked about it last week, but Safe Schools is our system that we use in Monroe. And I'll talk to, when we get to the reporting slide, a little bit about the levels of reporting. There's different kinds of reporting. There's confidential, anonymous, and then open reporting. And so I can talk a little bit about that and how we respond as a school kind of once we get to that reporting page.
Got it. Okay. And I'll hurry up. I see the time, so I'll get moving. Next page, another heartbreaking picture that I was able, this is a Snapchat. Dylan, whoever that guy is, went ahead and Snapchatted a girl's legs, and then put the word thick at the bottom, spelled it wrong. So maybe Dylan needs to continue going to school and focus on his schooling. But she reaches out to her mom, and this is the text message that follows it, saying, "Mom, can you please bring me a t-shirt and jeans, please?" And she's like, "What? You've got it on." And if I have time, I'll bring it. She says, a dress, and people are making fun of me and taking pictures of me and want to change. And mom recognizes the need that the daughter has and her concern that she has, and steps right into action. And I love a parent that shows up for their child. And so I really appreciate this. She's there in 7 minutes with clothes for her daughter and does that. I just, once again, want to reiterate the outlet that your children have. They don't have to sit there at school and be bullied. We have offices that they can come to. We have outlets that they can report to. Feel free to come to any of us while we're at the schools and do that. But I just love this example because a mom showed up for her daughter right away, which is great. What do we do when your child is the cyberbully? Well, are all cyberbullies bad people? I don't fully believe that. I really don't. And I think a lot of them just have their own issues or their own insecurities or whatever the case may be. Maybe they're from a home that doesn't quite give them the attention that they need. Or maybe they're even raised in the perfect home and they've just made the decision that they're just going to not be nice to people because they've got something better than somebody else and they feel like everybody is below them. So as a parent, these are just some suggestions that I would like to throw out there. Acknowledge the issue, remain calm, do it in a way that's not forceful against them. Keep an open line of communication. It also helps to be able to have that discussion with them. Stop the bullying, make them stop it. Understand the problem. Like, what's the bigger issue here? Investigate it. Why is your kid doing it? Make children understand how targets feel. Sometimes by putting them in the seat of the victim, it helps them understand, like as the bully, maybe I didn't fully understand that's how a person could be impacted by those words or comments. Set up parental controls. We'll talk about those here in just a bit. Share your concerns with them and stay educated. And that's the part that you're doing right now by being on a call. So I appreciate the education part. So going right into the crimes, the actual RCWs for the state of Washington, cyberstalking, that's one of them. Person is guilty of, I'm going to read my notes here. Intent to harass, intimidate, torment, embarrass another person, makes an electronic communication such or other person of a third party, lewd, lascivious, indecent, obscene words, images, language, or suggesting the commission of any lewd or lascivious act, anonymously or not. That's the definition of cyberstalking. So anybody with the intent to harass, intimidate, torment, or embarrass any other person, it's crime. And once again, it always hasn't been that way because we haven't had online. But now it is a crime to actually, with the intent to do it, put something online against somebody like this. Cyberstalking is a gross misdemeanor. Cyberstalking is also a felony if you've been convicted of the crime of harassment, which we'll show here in a couple slides, or you've threatened in your cyberstalking post, you have threatened to kill somebody or just to kill them. So that also makes it a felony. So kids can be convicted and arrested for felonies and gross misdemeanors. So just so you know, just because you're under 18 doesn't mean that you are held accountable to the RCWs and the laws of the state of Washington. Next one. This is a big one that schools deal with, especially high schools, disclosing intimate images. I know there's a lot of relationships that happen at schools, and boys, girls, or whatever the relationship is, they feel comfortable in their relationship and they feel like they can share intimate photos and images with each other. That's mentioned in this. Let's jump down to 2. It says 1 there, but let's jump down to 2 because that's age appropriate for the under 18. A person who is under the age of 18 is not guilty of the crime of disclosing intimate images unless the person intentionally and maliciously discloses an intimate image of another person. So if they accidentally did it, I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is, an accident. But if there's any intent to disclose or share that, then that's where the crime is. Obtained it under circumstances which a reasonable person would know or understand that the image was to remain private. So within their relationship, they had the understanding that those pictures were to stay, or those images were to stay within their relationship. And then one person shared it. That's where this crime would fall into place. Depicted a person has not consented to the disclosure of it. It's a gross misdemeanor on your first offense and a felony on 1 or more prior convictions of intimate images, of sharing that. So this does happen at the school. There's even we've dealt with what do you call it when you airdrop? Airdrop is another way where it's just an easy way to just send things, just basically that's exactly what it is, through the air, and it just shows up on people's phones without even having their phone number. You're just able to send it to phones out there. And so just this is where the parents being involved is the most important part, is teaching your kids that sure, you might be in a relationship, but at some point or possible your relationship might end and this person has full access to any pictures or images that you might have shared with them. So
and that's Officer Robertson, that's actually most commonly what we'll hear when we are exploring or investigating sexting or kind of this kind of concern at a school level. When this comes on our radar, it really is about, well, we were dating or we were friends and now we're not. And they have those pictures and they know that I have those pictures. I would say the more we investigate these, we typically will hear that at least a minimum, this is what students share with us, at least a minimum of 50% of our students are sending intimate pictures back and forth with one another. And it's not necessarily always, I appreciate you sharing kind of the boyfriend, girlfriend context. We have an example I can think of from my first year at MHS 5 years ago. So those students wouldn't be here anymore. 2 girls were Snapchatting topless together, right? And then they got in a fight. They didn't like each other anymore. And girl A now has topless pictures of girl B. And guess what? Those topless pictures then accidentally got shared. And so that's a lot of times that, or we'll have boys, they take pictures of their genitalia and share them with each other. Like, oh no, it's cool, Seamers. We're just neighbors. It's cool. We're neighbors. Craig's my guy. Like, yep, we're totally cool with this. And I'm like, someday you might be dating someone and then that person breaks up with you and then now he's dating and then there's a problem and Craig's not your guy anymore, right? Like, so those are things I would say this actually is the most common thing that we see in regards to students engaging in this kind of thing. And it's very, amongst them, it's very consensual. They're like, literally, Seamers, everyone is doing this. If you pulled anybody's phone right now, you would find most likely intimate images. And I'm like, I don't know that everyone is doing it, but we do believe a good percentage is. So
my hope is that nobody does it. However, reality is that a lot do it.
Well, and I think it's important. This is something that Officer Springer had shared with me prior to your start. He had shared that now sexting is actually a socially acceptable kind of norm amongst all age groups. So I'm just going to leave that there for a hot second because for me, I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I believe that. He said, nope, sexting is now in a socially acceptable kind of normal behavior or activity, various age groups beyond just teenagers. So
now can we go back to the original question of when do I give my child a phone?
Well, yep.
There you go. Well, that answers that, right?
Yep. Got to be able to have those conversations.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Next slide.
So under harassment, real quick, harassment is a person guilty of harassment without a person knowingly threatens to cause bodily injury immediately or in the future to the person threatened, or the person to cause physical damage to the property of person, to the subject person threatened, or any other person to physical confinement or restraint. Substantial harm, the person threatened or another with respect to his or her physical or mental health or safety. That's a big one. How do we know who's dealing with a mental health issue or an episode or anything in their life? How do we know what people are going through? And so I'm glad that in this crime or this RCW, it actually mentions mental health, is that if you're making fun of or you are intended to substantially harm the person threatened or another person with respect to his or her physical or mental health, you're making fun of somebody that's going through a mental health episode. That's where the crime is of harassment. The words or conduct includes, in addition to any forms of communication or contact, the sending of an electronic communication. So it can be done in person or through electronic communication. So there's several crimes out there for this, and just know that we do take it serious. We don't mess around when it comes to kids being felt or being victims. It's important for us parents. As parents ourselves, we hear you. And believe us, if you come to us with the concern of your child being a victim, we're going to investigate this to the full extent. So just know that if your kids are the bullies, please help them understand that there are crimes attached to their activities. And if your kids are victims, please know that there is an outlet for them to report all of this. So next slide, how to report. School administration and teachers, those are always the best bet. And that's why school is so great, is because we're just full of even mandatory reporters. We're full of them. And so when your kid walks onto the school grounds, they know that they are safe going to any adult on there because they're all mandatory reporters, and they have to actually report any criminal activity that has been reported to them, which is a great safe place for a child to be. And that's why schools are so important. School security. I know I talked about it last week about school security. Greg and his team, they're awesome. And they travel to all the schools within our Monroe School District. And they are very approachable and very present and there if your kids ever need it. School resource officer, I am more than willing to sit with your children for as long as they need to feel more comfortable about a situation. So please do involve me if you ever need me. And then 911 if something is emergent or needs to actually be handled right away.
Staff also includes our athletic coaches, our activity advisors, our club advisors, bus drivers, custodians, any adult that you would see on campus, even volunteers. Those are all individuals that are required to mandatory report. So if your student has a connection, you think, well, my student hasn't had a connection with their teachers or their admin or security, any adults on campus that they have a connection with. The other thing I had mentioned earlier, Safe Schools is an online anonymous, if you need to be anonymous reporting. But I do want to talk to our school district policy and procedure around this, where you can learn more on our website. But there's 3 different types of reporting. So there's an anonymous reporting. So someone can file anonymously without us having any understanding of their identity. Some advantages of that is that there's complete protection there, right? Like, hey, you need to check out in the commons during the last 10 minutes of lunch. This is happening. So for us, the way we respond to that, one, we obviously can't get back and report to the anonymous reporter kind of actions we've taken, but we can increase our presence in certain areas or increase monitoring or making sure that we're watching carefully, whether it's looking at cameras or actually being there in person, to be watching for those behaviors. The next level is confidential. So a student can report and share, please keep this, or an adult can report, please keep my identity secret from other students. Important to know when a confidential report is made, again, disciplinary action is really, really unlikely, and it won't happen based solely on that confidential report. There will have to be something else. Like an example might be, hey, my classmate's being bullied, and but I don't want anybody to know who that I reported it. Well, I can't punish them unless you give me some information or I see them. So I'm going to start hanging out in that space, right? And then there's open or non-confidential reporting. And so in that, when we're in that kind of reporting state, that's when we go into our legal timeline. I know you shared WACs, but we also have requirements as a school. So once we get the report, we have 2 days to notify families. We have 5 days to do an investigation. We have 2 more days to notify the families the outcome of that investigation, and 3 days to put actions into place that would would change the behavior. So we are on a very tight 12-day timeline for that. And so that's something as parents you can expect. If you report that your student is being bullied, there is a timeline that we are required to follow to make sure that we're responding and notifying as a school.
Do you want to watch the video? It'll probably take us over a couple minutes, if that's okay, or no? We could skip it.
I'm happy to stay. It doesn't matter to me.
Let's stay.
We've got,
Okay.
let's stay, let's watch it. We're almost at right after this. I think there's one more slide. Families that are still here, you're free to leave whenever you want. We will have an opportunity for questions at the end that Officer Robertson and I will answer live too. So just kind
And
of that.
the next slide right after the video gives some recommendations on safeguards for your phones and computers.
Got it. Oh, parental controls. Yep. Okay, let's watch this.
Most of the time it's why. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? Why would you do it? Why would you do it?
I'll stand up for myself. I'm not just gonna let them come at me. I'm gonna do what I can against them.
They should just know that there's someone out there who does care about them, and that, you know, that's not really who they are.
Feel embarrassed?
There's no reason to take your life if you're getting bullied. You just have to keep going, I guess. Keep going, I guess. Keep going, I guess. Whatever you're going through, you're always going to be able to get through it. No matter who you are, somebody cares about you.
Whenever I see somebody getting bullied, I think about why them? Why would you bully somebody like that?
People who actually take time to tell you that they care about you, that really helps. I care about you and I love you, because it really just it makes you feel like there's a reason, and you haven't lost all hope. There is something worth living for and stuff like that.
We don't do it with notes anymore, or gossip and whispering behind people's back. We put it out there on social media for everybody to see.
It does provide a platform for bullying to take place at an arm's length.
Every day I guess that they get bullied, they just can't take it anymore.
And that's not what life has to be like.
Everybody needs a little love and kindness. And I said to the kids, imagine if you came to school every day and everybody was kind to one another, kind to one another, kind to one another. I think anti-bullying week is great, but I think sometimes that can be a week and then we forget about it. I think be kind is something that you should do all the time.
Paying more attention to what we're actually saying and realizing what it actually does to people, that words aren't just words, they mean things. They mean things.
Definitely something that I think standing up for it's right.
Not just like when teachers are watching or when parents are watching, you should always be nice to each other and other people.
Just to be nice. That's the ultimate message that the school is sending everyone.
It just doesn't take much at all to be kind. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind. Be kind.
Be kind.
So a good video, a message that I've always talked about with other officers throughout my career is it's a free service that we can give, is just to be kind to others. And so as students and even parents, just be kind. So I enjoyed that video. We'll leave this up if we have any questions out there. If anybody wants to take any questions, like I said last week, I'm not a commercial for any of these, and I don't endorse any of them other than I did a couple searches on the best ones that are out there. I know each of the carriers, Verizon, AT&T, they have their own safeguards that you can put on your phones. And here's a couple other additional ones that you can throw on phones, and you can have keystrokes recorded. You can have timelines that kids can be on certain applications recorded. For me in my home, as my kids were growing up, they all had iPhones. And so I was able to see where they were at all times. They would lose their phone, just so you know the consequence. They would lose their phone if they ever turned off their Find My iPhone app, and then their phone goes away. So I had access to them at all times when I needed it. There's various different levels of security or parental controls that you can find here. But anyways, I'll leave those up if you want to look or record those. If you have any questions, we'll take those now.
There's also one called RPACT, O-U-R PACT, P-A-C-T. That's a good one our family uses now. You're welcome to throw questions into the Q&A, and then we're happy to stay and answer whatever questions you have, and we'll be here. So,
and once again, I'm grateful the people that came on here. I'm grateful you took your evening tonight to come on and chat with us, or at least listen to it. Let's see.
That's a great question. What can students do to prevent and stop cyberbullying? I love that question. I absolutely love that question. One of the things that we do, and I'll use an example even just from this fall, there was an anonymous Instagram account created that was, its intent was to target specific people about their race, gender, sexual preferences, those kinds of things. And they literally were calling out students by name. And we did not have a way to find out who was responsible for the account. We worked with the student who reported it to us on how to report that to Instagram. Instagram ended up taking it down. So a couple different ways, and I know Officer Robertson, you'll add to this, but one of the things we really strive to do, at least at Monroe High School, is to teach students how to support each other in this, right? So that they're the ones, I gave an example last week. We had an account that was live for the better part of probably 4 months last year. And it was just around, it was kind of intimidating other schools is what it was. It was kind of an athletics, let's intimidate you, come into our house kind of thing, but it wasn't nice. It wasn't always nice, the things that were posted. We never found out who was responsible for that account. The kids kept it really, really tight and quiet. And so we worked with students to be able to try to shift that narrative. And so that's one of the things we do, at least at Monroe High School as administrators and staff, is to try to teach them. We also do a ton of prevention. So talking with students and education is one of the biggest ways we can do that through prevention. So we talk through what it means to be a good human for the most part, right? That Be Kind was perfect. We've not done a Be Kind mission. I love that now, but really trying to educate students on what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. Craig, do you want to offer kind of some more pieces?
Sure. I don't know who gave that question, but I appreciate it. And thanks for asking about that, because that's important too, is being able to, for lack of a better term, police ourselves as our age group. The most impressive child to me, as I've raised my own and spoken with kids in groups, is the child or the kid or the teenager at any age group that is able to actually take themselves out of the group and become that leader pretty quick and call out the behavior that is inappropriate. That to me is more impressive than any other act that they can do. I don't care if you're handing out food to homeless on your Saturdays. To me, the person that is able to step out of their comfort circle just for a moment and say, stop, everybody. I am not going to go with the grain of what you're all doing, because what's happening right here is inappropriate and wrong. And so you have just now made yourself a leader. You have stepped out of it sometimes is difficult. I get it to be that person that does that, but I will promise you that you will have other people in the group that will follow you now because of your actions, and you'll be looked on in a positive light by each of them. So I love it when kids are able to actually just do that themselves and step out and call out that bad behavior.
And I think another example is this 2-part series, right? We want to be able to work with families. And so this actually, both nights have been recorded and they will be posted on our website. And then they'll also be actually emailed out to students and families. Big part is this is a partnership, right? So it's not just parents who are responsible. All adults in a student's life are responsible for encouraging them and working with them to teach them how to stop and prevent this, right? And to also recognize, I think I would be remiss if, recognize when we as school administration officials, we need to actually make sure we're turning this over to authorities, because there is a line, right? Like yes, this constitutes harassment, intimidation, bullying in a school context, but it might not be a criminal one. And so I think that's another piece too, that we work closely with our SRO, we work closely with law enforcement when things come up like this to make sure we're doing the right. Anytime, for example, the intimate images, anytime that comes up, automatic law enforcement involvement. It doesn't mean that there's always a quote criminal response, right? That doesn't mean the student's going to be arrested or that anything's going to happen. Oftentimes, in fact, every time that I think I've been a part of dealing with that with our SRO, it's been a conversation of, you want to make sure you understand the potential impacts lifelong
More of a teaching
have for having intimate images on your phone, right? A lot of students don't even understand that, if they have a picture of a student who's younger than 14, that's child pornography. And so a lot of it is educating it. A lot of it is teaching them. I know we also have programs in our middle schools as well, where we talk to students before they turn 14. So they're aware that like, hey, when this starts happening, you got to make sure that you're aware of, and that's a partnership between us and families.
Right. Good.
Yeah, that's a great question. Other questions? Anything else we can answer for you? We're here for you right now.
And you can also reach out anytime after this. I would also love to know, and I know that this just came to me a while ago about this subject, but are there other subjects or anything else that you would like to have us continue doing this on? So reach out to us and let us know if there's something else that's important that we can discuss.
All right. I think we're good. I don't know that we're going to get any more questions. And thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to be here. I know some of you, it's your family watching, and I love that. That's another way that you stop and prevent this, right? Is that you sit as a family with multiple age children from your home and you watch this and you talk about these things. Maybe for some of you, this is the first time your young child heard the word sexting and they're like, what is that? Well, sorry, but we've opened up an opportunity for a discussion, right? And so those are things too that I know Officer Robertson and I appreciate you being here. We appreciate you taking time. This is important to us. I mean, even though I look that we have a small number of folks here, I'd gladly give an hour and a half of my evening any night just to make sure we create awareness around this topic. So, yeah.
Right.
Hope you have all a great evening and you have healthy and safe holidays. Officer Robinson, do you want to add anything else?
Nope, that's it. I appreciate everybody being here tonight and Ms. Seamers for the opportunity to talk.
Thanks for your time, Officer Robertson. Take care.